Joining me now is News Corp's senior writer Patrick Carlyon and media writer for the Australian newspaper Sophie Ellsworth. Team, we will be getting to the Trump-Musk chat shortly. That has shook up the online world. But let's start with former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, calling out former Australian Prime Minister Paul Keating for his comments about Taiwan sitting on Chinese real estate. That's what Paul Keating said. And Nancy Pelosi did not hold back, calling the former Labor Prime Minister stupid and ridiculous.
Well, you don't want to get my description of him for saying that. That's ridiculous. It is not Chinese real estate, and he should know that. Taiwan is Taiwan, and it's of the people of Taiwan who have a democracy there. I think that was a stupid statement I have no idea about Keating, but I think it was a stupid statement to make. And I don't know what his connection is to China that he would say such a thing, but it is really not in the security interest of the Asian Pacific region for people to talk that way.
Patrick, she used the words ridiculous, stupid twice, and also questioned Paul Keating's connection to China. That is going to, I'm sure, get a response from Paul Keating at some point.
Absolutely. Look, I think firstly, it's a pity that she wasn't asked about Malcolm Turnbull, because she might have said the same things. But in talking about Taiwan, I mean, she's right. It's a democracy. It's about freedom. It's facing the imperial fist, if you like, of China. It's a very important hotspot in the world. And Paul Keating, I think, compared Taiwan to Tasmania, which was described as baffling, and it was. China is not our friend. It's a mutually beneficial sort of ally, if you like. They don't have the same values. And you have to agree with Pelosi on this one, I think.
I think you do. Not too often I agree with her. But, Sophie, Paul Keating still has this, I don't know, reputation in this country where he is seen as this leading light in Labor, this intellectual whose words are listened to very carefully. And not too often do you have someone from the left lay the boots in like she just did.
Well, that's right, Rita. It's the left eating the left here. And I think Paul Keating is doing himself a disservice because he seems to be commenting on a lot of issues of late. He's constantly popping up in the media, putting his 2 cents out there. He's becoming, like these former prime ministers that cannot move on and very bitter, and this is showing through. And it doesn't help him when someone of Nancy Pelosi's, she's known all around the world, attacks him.
Well, yes, he should try to be more like Tony Abbott and Julia Gillard as opposed to Kevin Rudd and Malcolm Turnbull. Though Kevin is behaving himself, given he's got that diplomatic posting, but we'll see how long that lasts. Now, let's talk about the Greens. They've called for sanctions to be levelled against the Israeli government, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and they want the Albanese government to expel Israel's Ambassador to Australia, Amir Maimon. WA Senator Fatima Payman, who in July quit the Labor Party, did vote with the Greens, but the Coalition and Labor combined today to defeat this motion in the Australian Parliament. This is astonishing, Patrick. They want to expel the Israeli ambassador. They're talking about sanctions against the only democracy in the Middle East, our greatest ally in the region. I mean, this is nutty stuff, even by the Green standards.
Absolutely. Look, they've been grandstanding on this since October 7, basically. And I think it verges into anti-Semitism at times. They call the Israeli government extremist, but they're not talking about Hamas, who happen to sort of go and massacre 1,400 or 1,300 innocent Jewish people. It's about getting votes in the marginal electorates. They want to take votes off the ALP there. It's sort of dressed up in this high-minded, sort of morality. But it's all about, it's very basic sort of politicking of the worst kind. And it does fan the flames of extremism. And we've seen enough of that already on the streets in the protests.
Yeah, I think it's very opportunistic by the Greens. They see opportunity here and they're going after. They know they can wedge Labor, who are desperate to appease segments of their supporter base. Now, let's talk about that wide-ranging interview that happened earlier today between Elon Musk and Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump. all sorts of serious matters discussed: energy security, inflation, national security. But there was an unexpected lighter moment. They were discussing the miraculous manner in which Trump survived that assassination attempt. And he says illegal immigration saved his life.
And I mean, speaking of the sort of slide that got you to turn that saved your life, really, was the illegal immigration slide. Maybe this, maybe this is worth talking about that.
It was
that slide. That slide saved your life.
No, the illegal immigration saved my life. You're right, but it had to be at that exact angle.
I mean, that's a great one. saved by illegal immigration.
You know,
Sophie, of course, he turned his head at that last millisecond to look at a slide that had illegal immigration figures on it, and that's saved his life. I mean, it's incredible to think about. What did you make of that chat? It went for some time. A lot of issues were covered and an enormous audience reached.
That's right, Rita. And obviously they had the technical issues initially, but then they recovered from that. It's quite a lengthy interview. I've heard large segments of it. Look, I thought it was pretty interesting. This is obviously a very good platform for Trump to get his messaging out there. We know that X is, I would argue, a left-leaning social media platform. It's important that he voices his views across all platforms. Elon Musk has given him that platform. And we know he was also back on Twitter himself, or X today, posting after, what, a 1-year hiatus. So
I think longer than that. I don't think he's been there since 2020, maybe?
Right. Well, it's certainly some time since he's been posting. So the fact that he's back on there, this shows that I think he'll be using this platform a lot in the lead up to the presidential race.
What do you make of Trump being back on Twitter, or X as it's now called?
Yes.
He's created his own social media platform that we're told is now worth billions, but Twitter or X is where the bulk of the audience is. And I think if you're running for president, you really should make an appearance.
Absolutely. Look, I think he offered Elon Musk a place in his administration during the 2 hours. It went for 2 hours. It's a long time to ask somebody to watch something. It was basically a stump speech almost. He just talked about the Iron Dome. I mean, he's just going to protect America with an Iron Dome like that.
You know what? That sounds kind of crazy when you look at the size of the country.
Yes.
But, and also because, you don't expect Canada to be trying to nuke the joint. But a lot of Americans would go, well, we're paying for this sort of security elsewhere in the world. Why don't we also have it? I think it would be weirdly popular regardless.
I'm sure it's popular. But I think for Trump, I mean, look, it's important he gets his message out now. I don't think it really matters so much what he does and doesn't say, because Americans worked out a long time ago that the content of Donald Trump isn't particularly important. It's what he represents. And he wants to get, he wants to be back in the gaze again. I mean, Kamala Harris has stolen some of that gaze in the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely. And I think there's a stark contrast here, having a 2-hour chat when Kamala is refusing to do interviews.
That's a good point.
She's only talking from prepared statements on an auto cue. So, yeah, it just shows that contrast.